Okay.
Whoa, whoa.
Why is that kind of loud?
I just put mine down.
We are live, and welcome to Community Chat on Breaking the Silence. I had to turn my volume down too. Oh, I don't have my hat on.
Okay. Let's
Okay.
bring Dennis and Joe on.
While you're doing all that, I
Hello.
wanted to bring up a topic that's been interesting to
Hey.
say the least the last few days, and that is I've had to ban and remove several people for calling me a liar and saying that Dennis is laughing already, calling me a liar and saying I'm not telling the truth. So why should I believe you? You say you don't use AI and all through your videos is AI. Well, this is because the people making this claim and saying this do not know or understand the difference between AI and CGI. CGI, we all know what it means. It's computer graphic imagery, and it was created back in the 80s on the old toasters for the early Commodore system. What was that called? That computer. And I've been working since that time, late 80s and 90s, with Lightwave and Maya and 3D Studio Max. And with CGI, you make the models, you create the 3D models, you animate them, you put skeletons in them, you build backgrounds, so it's artistry, absolute artistry. You don't just say, give me this, and it gives it to you, and it looks like something that everybody else has, which is why I don't use it, because I like hands-on work. So in all my shows, if some of you are listening and thinking that I'm not telling the truth about that, I am. You just have to understand what the difference is between AI and CGI. You got to make an effort. You got to go research it, because if you call someone a liar and you're out of line like that, you're eventually going to find out about it. You're not going to feel good about it. You might even feel a little humiliated. So now that I got that off my chest, let's move on.
Well,
Because I
welcome,
just got,
welcome everybody, and I'm
yeah,
glad he got
welcome.
that. I'm glad he got that off his chest
Yeah,
early.
well, we're shooting from the hip here. And, I've had a number of people do this, and it's really sad because they just don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, I just got through a grueling, 2.5, 3 weeks, Mary?
I don't want to talk about it.
Working on working on Susie Hansen's show, which is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and a good 30 minutes of it is only her talking. And as she describes her experience in chapter 26, I'm struggling to bring that to life single-handedly using CGI. I
Okay.
made her grays the way she saw them. I made the interiors. I made the craft. Interestingly enough, that I didn't have images of the craft from her. I guessed, and then later got the images, and they were accurate. That was. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but it was a really hard one to do, and I worked really hard on it. And I can't wait for you all to see it. Aside from my work, she's just great. And then after we have her describe that whole experience, we have a nice long conversation about all of this. And this is stuff, aside from Jeff Selva, um, has not been discussed much openly in the this community. People seem to be kind of unaware of it, as I'm sure Jeff's familiar with. Not to say that they won't be hopefully pleasantly surprised, because I think they have hunches about their experience, and they're afraid to come clean about it because they'll sound like it's too far fetched. They're going too far out on a limb. And then you have all the people who say they're demons that will come at you and say, that you're a foolish woman. They're not family,
Oh,
as CJ was called this morning. We removed that person.
I.
So, um, Susie's is really a gap bridger, and that's why we want to do the same thing with Jeff,
Yeah.
because both your book and her book, in my opinion, are telling the truth about this experience. So many of you out there ask, why is this happening? what gives them the right, all that kind of stuff. If you read The Dual Soul Connection and The Rising by Jeff here, um, many of your questions will be answered. Whether you choose to accept those questions or not is up to you, but many are. I'm finding, aren't you, Jeff?
Oh yeah, that's my Amazon page, Facebook page. Yeah, Reddit. I post on Reddit quite a bit. We've talked about this, and I get a lot of
Support.
replies that I'm helping, that it's helping people. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's helping
I
people
mean,
understand the grander picture. Yeah,
Deborah Cobble, her show, which went up, it'll be 2 weeks ago now. It's gone way past 45,000 views. And the comments are beautiful because she basically has come to terms with this the same way we have on her very own. Come to a lot of the same conclusions, and it's really helped people, and they're saying so.
yeah, yeah.
So
Exactly. They're saying so. That's right. Yeah.
that's very rewarding because we work really hard. I don't think people realize how hard we work on this, how hard Jim Lowe works on this, how hard you work on this, and the rest of us who are putting ourselves out there to try to make a difference with this subject matter.
Yeah.
So I've said enough for now. I'm going to sit back. Let you guys talk.
I'm in like a, I have a Sadhguru, right? So I'm in this kind of like Vedic spiritual community, and at first they were very disturbed actually by what I was doing and why I was doing this. And it's really hard to wrap their own head around how much I'm helping other people. Yeah. And they're very confused by that. They just think they're weird stories, and they're not understanding that, like, yeah, it triggers people. The stories trigger people's awareness. And then that helps them make sense of something that's actually very complex and it's outside the mind. It's outside the human mind. So it's just hard to wrap people's head around, even if they've had their own experience. And so you end up being a voice to kind of console. It's not consoling, but it's kind of like that, to help with that process. And it's very helpful for people. And knowing that struggle, it's a spiritual struggle. The alien contact is a spiritual struggle. So I love facilitating or helping with that. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said in the description for Susie's show, which is now up, and also the trailer is up for it, which is pretty interesting as itself. I say right in the description that this is one of the most difficult subjects to share with humanity. There's nothing more difficult than this because of exactly the reasons you just stated.
Yeah. Agreed. 100%. People have no idea. We're on the forefront of something that's about to hit humanity really hard.
Consciousness? Consciousness, yes. We have
history. It goes on and
Yeah.
on, and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of topics that are hard to swallow.
So we have someone joining us for the first time on here. Hey, Caroline. Hi.
Hey.
Oh, Caroline.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey guys, how are you? Sorry, I'm a couple
Good.
minutes late.
Oh,
My schedule is
no
dictated to me
worries.
by a very cute little 4-year-old, and so we're usually a couple minutes late. So nice to see you all.
Good to have you
You
on
too.
camera. That's great.
You're welcome.
I see
Yeah.
Judy's in chat, and John Condor, and of course Dennis is always in there.
And of
Benny's
course,
here.
Benno.
Dennis in two places at once. He's a multi-dimensional person. Linda's in there. Benno is in there. So,
People are saying hi.
yeah. Welcome.
So, Jim, how have you been?
Better, doing well. I've been every time I come on and Jeff's on one of these things, I go, "Oh darn, I was going to read his book," and then about 3 weeks ago, I just ordered it and started reading it, and I know why I'm doing it now as opposed to 2 months ago. because it fit for what I'm doing. And I had been through a period reading the same books over and over again and decided to break out of it. But I started reading Jeff's book, and then a friend of mine, um, who's a part of the UAP Disclosure Fund, mentioned about um, who's the guy that wrote um, the Tom Hanks thrillers with the Vatican and all those.
Dan
Yeah.
Brown.
Dan Brown. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And so I bought it, and I was reading along in Jeff's book on chapter 2, and he went to a junior high. That the first name of the guy on the plaque out front is Charles. And so I stopped. I go, I'm not absorbing this right now. Today isn't a good day. I'll just switch over to fiction. And so I pull up Dan Brown's book, and literally the first page starts on the Charles River in Prague. And the book's about consciousness, his it's
Synchronicity.
a murder thriller, kind of typical Dan Brown book, but it's about consciousness and how it's not what people think it is. And it's pretty much along the lines of what we all believe. And so I was reading both books at the same time, and they were literally tracking with what was said. But I had my own synchronicities besides that with Jeff's book, like when he was on Hornby Island and it was abducted, and then they flew over Howe Sound, flying right over my family cabin on Gambier Island.
Amazing. Yeah.
It was the same cabin that about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, our cabin is on a bluff over the Howe Sound, facing southward. But behind our cabin is sort of an open area that at the time wasn't, the trees, not the cedars hadn't grown over it. And I just got up one morning and decided I needed to sweep it, the open area. And like sweeping an open area in forest is pretty stupid. And my wife's cousin, who has the next cabin to us, who loves picking on Americans for doing what he considers stupid things, I'm sitting there sweeping the forest floor, with a broom like you're doing your kitchen. And he walks by me and says, "Hi, Jim," and just walks by, doesn't make a smart aleck remark or anything, which is out of character for the 50 years I've known him. And so when all of a sudden I stopped sweeping and I felt I was done. And I looked and I swept about a 30 or 40 foot around circular pattern right underneath the sky where you could see the sky above. And then that night, I was still stressed over it. That night, then I woke up feeling tired, but I had slept all night, and all my urgency over cleaning up out there was over. And here I made a perfectly circular area. So when they landed, I'm sure, because I had that feeling that something was going to happen, that we all do. And the next morning I felt better. It was over. And there would be no swirling pattern in all the cedar droppings. And so that was the cabin that Jeff flew over on
Wow.
and there's about 20 or other synchronicities, but that's just a weird one.
That's a good one. Yeah, Gambier Island, Jim. That's amazing. Hey, ring me up when you come up here. That's great.
Yeah, I may not be up there anymore because of my it's really difficult to get up and down.
Right.
And but I have to walk up a dock, and it's very difficult for me to do it. And then the last time they put me on an ATV, sitting behind the driver holding on, just to be able to get up and then getting in. It takes about a half hour to get in the cabin for me. So I'm hoping to go, but I probably won't. But I'd love to. Yeah, you're welcome to come. We're always welcoming guests.
Gambier Island
beer.
Gambier Island has had the UFO BC database. There were several landings, UFO landings there, and it was documented. And there's a whole bunch of children staying at a cabin, and they all got freaked out. And yeah, Gambier Island has had its own bizarre cases. So it's really neat to live there. Yeah, it's on the UFO BC database. Yeah, they're pretty fascinating. Yeah, I've researched all this, and after my own memories came out and the locations, I had to know more about those locations, and Gambier Island is one of them. It's very fascinating. You live there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I made a circular landing pad for one of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Without even realizing when I was finished sweeping.
Yeah.
And I've never swept the forest since.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Jeff. When you were talking about, when we were on the Zoom, you were talking about the Experiencer subreddit.
Oh, yeah.
And I gave them a second chance, and I've been going in there, and they do have some interesting things to say. So that was good.
Yeah, it's a safe haven. It's got its share of everything, I think, and I think that's really good on their behalf, the moderators, to keep that all up. And it's a safe haven, and I find that, and it's safe haven while also being very visible, and those two things don't go hand in hand too well on the internet right now. So that's very important, actually. And so I know researchers who are watching that. I know, like, higher up, quote unquote, people who watch that subreddit, and the views that some of your posts can get are astounding, and then they'll just take out any of the negative comments, which is really amazing work on their behalf.
Wow.
That's good. That's good, Mary. Awesome.
Thank you.
Hello, Joe. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
There's Jim taking a personal moment to say hello. Jim and I met. We are both members of CERO, the Close Encounters Research Organization. Resource, I'm sorry.
I know, it's hard for me to get it right.
Yvonne gets it wrong sometimes.
Yeah, Yvonne changed the name some years ago, and I'm stuck on that first title.
Me
But
too.
Jim and I started going to those meetings after my encounters in 2011. I think the first meeting I attended was in 2012. It would have been, and I met Jim shortly thereafter. I think he lives quite a distance from where the meetings were held, and I would only see him occasionally, but it was always nice to get to chat with him, and we shared our stories, and ended up spending quite a bit of time together at the meetings over the years. It's been quite a long time since I last saw Jim here on screen, but it's nice to see you again, my friend.
You too.
Yeah. I have a question for the CERO members. Did anybody get this morning's email from CERO regarding to what was happening, Steve? What did it say?
Well, it was another person. I'm so out of touch with that group. I mean, I started working with Yvonne in '93 and was a member that
But
far
we still
back.
get their
but that's
emails.
really changed, yeah. And there's all these new people in there. I don't even think they know I exist, but every once in a while, I'll comment on something and someone said, does anyone else feel like something's about to happen? Well, we hear this all the time. And I just commented that it's already happening. And to my surprise, a number of people reacted to that and thought that was the case. Yeah, it is definitely already happening. So it's in progress. And yeah, it's real, people
Yep.
out there. And it is
What do you
happening.
think? What do you think about that, Dennis?
What, something's happening right now?
Yeah, what's
Yeah, I think
happening?
it is. I mean, there's, as Melissa, my wife, has brought up to me that there's changes in the
Ah,
wavelengths of the frequency of the Earth. Um, Typically 7.8 something hertz, and that is changing, and that's going to affect all of us. And that's something that can scientifically happen. I agree.
And how would that affect us?
An awakening, a way to see things that you can't see right now. I mean, it sounds weird, but even like things like your refrigerator going off in the middle of the night can awaken you to new experiences. The wavelength of the planet can actually do that too. So I don't know, but I'm curious to see, and I believe that there is changes coming.
what's interesting about that is that in my conversation with Barbara Emberhart, who's a member of Ciro, she now lives in Germany. I think some of you know about her. She just wrote a book about her experiences, and they're very much aligned uh, with Susie's, Jeff's, my own, and a lot of other people. But she talked about something I found very, very interesting, and I have yet to edit the show with her, and it's going to be a good one. I think that's the next one I'm supposed to do after Dev. So, but what she talked about is she talked about the fact that there would be a splitting of the earth like a cell, but she meant that as sort of a metaphor, or maybe the visitors meant it. In other words, it was going to divide into two different earths, one where the people who have the higher consciousness and vibration and have moved to that level will exist, and the rest will be in this other earth, the one we're in right now, to hopefully achieve that same thing. But in the meantime, it's going to split, and we will be in a reality that looks the same but isn't the same. I think that's kind of how she described it. That also sounds a lot like the Rising too, and it sounds like the things Susie talked about and the messages I've been getting. And they keep, the one thing that's consistent with them is they keep saying to me, and they've been saying this since 2017. Exactly this is how it's stated. There's still hope. Don't give up.
The crabwood message.
Yeah,
The what?
Say that
Mass
again?
message?
the crabwood,
I'm not familiar with that.
the crop circle, the crabwood crop circle. That's what you mean, right, Jim?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
2004.
Really?
Yeah.
And so I never knew that. And the night that I saw the big triangle over my house while I was talking on the phone to Whitley,
Oh,
and I was looking for a new ending to my movie, or the ending for my movie, and that I made in 2017. After the thing moved off, and I was exasperated, here I am with Whitley, and he can't see it, and I can't share it with them, except to describe what was happening. And as I walk into the house, I sort of stopped my tracks before I opened the sliding door, and that's when I heard it right in my head. There's still hope. Don't give up. And that's how the film ends too. And I didn't know that. I didn't. Now I have to go look that up because I had no idea about the crop circle message. Was
Much
saying
pain,
that.
but still time. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So like, it doesn't matter that, people assume that we're just running off of mythology that we create in the UFO field. There's a crop circle that gives a very clear message, and it's clearly not made by humans, right? Conduit closing, much pain, but still time.
yeah.
So
That's
there's
the one
something
with the
going on
picture
here.
of the
That's much
gray,
larger.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. With the disc That's in binary
Yeah.
code. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that was made in a matter of seconds. It was there one,
It's
and then and it's right next to the radio station, and it happened in broad daylight, and it just like happened very quickly, and as they
And-
do because it's all pre-programmed.
the pattern of that crop circle is unreplicatable. It's the lines, the horizontal lines. It's the complexity is scales up. Like humans
Yeah.
would have to be celebrating their ingenuity for the art if they actually had made it. Like it's so unprecedented, and no one took. It's just obvious that and people
It's
were on
like
site. So yeah, you're right. People were on site doing the research, and it was definitely made by something other than humans. Yeah.
I liken it to I have a laser cutter, and it's a really nice one. It's really big. I can cut it just about anything on it to any depth I want. I can make any pattern I want. But imagine a device in a craft that's like a laser cutter, except it has a microwave beam, and all you have to do is program into the computers, which they have, and tell that microwave beam to do that. And I think it's done with the orbs that had been caught going down into the fields and getting the wheat to lay down. I'm pretty sure that video that was shot years ago is real. Have you seen it, Jeff?
I have. I personally don't believe that one. I do have a skeptical side to myself, but I saw a really good documentary. It was on UFO TV. It was actually about crop circles, and I don't know why this isn't bigger on our internet sources, but a guy was filming it. He was filming through a CTV camera or his own cameras, I guess, and he caught a flash. And it was in a 15-minute marker, and all it was just a flash. And then 15 minutes later, the sun's starting to rise. So it was in Great Britain in the summer, and then within the 15 minutes, you can see the crop circles there. So the flash is clearly when it happened, and then the crop circle is also it's perfectly shaped as if it got dumped overhead, while the hillside is all wavy. So it's clearly it's like impressioned on top of. It's so amazing and impressive. And I don't know, I haven't ever seen that ever since. And so I kind of wish I could dig that up.
Yeah.
But that's my favorite. I know those orbs one you're talking about, and I'm not convinced about those ones.
Well, who's the researcher of the crop circles? I've talked to him. Very nice man. Is it Colin Chapman?
Yes.
No.
Colin.
Yes. Really, really nice man. I had a nice long talk with him on the phone, and I feel he's very legitimate. And I don't know if you recall some of the videos he shot, but there were that there was a black helicopter hovering over the crop circle, and there was this bright light in the wheat. The skeptics tried to say it was a reflection on a piece of glass from the helicopter's strobe, but it wasn't in sync at all. I mean, they always do stretch it. And then the helicopter chased them out of there and was literally chasing them down the road, getting as close to the car. And Colin was shooting out of the back window. The thing about the one I saw with that's been seen with the orbs and the crop circle laying down is that was pretty early on in the 90s, and our CG wasn't.
Yeah,
There weren't a lot of
I agree
people
with that.
doing it. Yeah, there weren't a lot of people doing it, and I was working in Lightwave in 1990, and I guess it could have been done, but it would have been hard, and I don't know if it would have looked that good. Luckily, they had the poor quality of the camera working in their favor, but all the cameras back then were poor quality. I go back and look at videos I shot on a Sony Handycam, which was 8mm. They're lousy. We thought they were good back then.
And there are credible witnesses to crop circles and orbs being associated with each other. So there is that. Linda Moulton Howe has a really good story about her investigations, going to England, going to these crop circles, and then her having face-to-face interactions with orbs that were in the crop circles at the time. So we don't know.
Has anybody ever figured out why they're always in England and over in Europe? You don't really see them in the US that often.
No.
Could that be a reporting factor, though?
Maybe.
Say that,
I don't know.
Melissa.
Oh, I just don't think that we have very good reporting on sightings
No, we don't.
or
I mean,
phenomenon in general.
Or maybe they're not doing it here because they kind of know how things are here, and they think that the Europeans are a little bit more educated and more aware and paying more attention to things than we do here while we're making bombs and things. So slaughtering
There is a
hillsides
Celtic
and putting up,
connection
we're the what?
there is a Celtic connection to the phenomenon.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, there is. If the Fae, Great Aliens, I did a whole video on it. I'm convinced they're very linked. And,
no, they are.
Yeah, and so I agree. There's a weirdness behind the crop circles being there, but sometimes I think it's tied to that kind of Fae link.
And it goes
Celtic
back
Fae
very
link.
far because
It
if you
does. The
look,
Fae were recorded for creating crop circles. So yeah, it's very linked. Yeah, it's a very bizarre phenomenon and very linked.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
well, back to the time of Stonehenge, if you look at the hieroglyphs that are carved into the rocks of the spirals and all kinds of sacred geometry type oriented stuff, it's almost as if they were seeing those crop circles and they were replicating them on stone.
And that
And then
just
they
made
built
me think.
stone temples to them on the site.
But that just made me also think about the huge pictographs in the ground in South America and Australia. And
Yeah.
are they linked?
Mhm.
Are they linked to the crop circles? Because especially some of the ones in Australia, that they're enormous.
And it does seem like these mummies as well too, these Nazca mummies now, like all the research behind this, like the whole thing that Jacques Vallée points out is the little people, right? The little people have been reported throughout the world in different cultures. And is that what gray aliens always were, the little people? And so yeah, every indigenous culture has some version of the little people. And
Yes.
that
The
aspect of the
connections.
Nazca lines. What's that?
Yeah, the idea that this has always been here and it evolves into whatever it is we expect as humanity. If
Yeah.
you go back in the past, well, it's fairies. And that's why I always say, like, if somebody said, hey, I saw unicorns, I don't discount that because that could be what their mind is willing to accept.
Mm-hmm.
My
when they're
grandfather
experiencing it.
My grandfather from Ireland called them the little people. My grandmother made fun of him, thought he was a nut because he saw them. And she said, "Oh, your grandfather saw leprechauns." And it's like, I knew the difference back then when I was a kid. He was very adamant. No, they were little people, not leprechauns. And he was very Irish, very much Irish. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Well,
and
if
he
they're
believed in all
if-
that stuff. So
considering the fact that this program has been going on for a very long time and you needing to put screen memories into people that aren't quite as evolved, that's where you may get fays and leprechauns and gargoyles and all of that, because that's what those people could accept at the moment. So
It's hard to know
that's
too
my thought.
if they didn't play with it. Like they may have, I don't know, I can see my own gray alien dressing up as a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Like kind of having
that's what
fun
I'm
with it,
talking
like
about.
playing around with it and stuff. And I think they have a bit of humor and they might like to get in on this stuff. And I think they think of it as like kind of fun to play with our ideas like this. And I don't mean that maliciously. I think that they can do that. And so that's fun.
Well,
Which
it's part
begs
of
the question.
Yes.
Which begs the question: who made the monoliths? Not the ones that appeared to us as Australopithecus, millions of years ago, but the more recent ones. That whole thing sort of died off, and we all assumed that they were man-made. Somebody was having a good time, but no one took credit for it, and they appeared all over the place, and then they stopped, like somebody was playing with us.
And continue.
I
mean the one that-
didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything more about it. It just sort of faded off.
You mean the one in the desert that got that was there?
There was
Is that
more.
right?
Big
There was the one in
triangular
the
There were a-
desert, the one
Oh
in the
God,
hill,
yes.
the ones
Yeah.
that appeared in Europe. They appeared in Europe on a hill, all over the place. And even in San Francisco, I think there was one down here, and then they're just gone.
I
And
even
no one
forgot
ever
painted
about
took
a
that.
credit
picture.
for it.
I even
Wow.
painted a picture of one. I have to go upstairs at the studio and
Yeah.
find it.
Now you have to share the picture. Oh.
I have to find it. You don't know what my upstairs looks like at the studio.
Yeah. So no one, hardly anybody remembers the monolith thing, and that was, I forget how many years ago it was, about 5-6 years ago. But
But they
it
just
fascinated
disappeared.
me because of 2001. I mean, 2001 starts
Mhm.
off with a monolith, representative of advanced intelligence on Earth, looking at the creatures that would eventually evolve into us. And the only reason they evolved into us is because they had something to do with it. That was clear in that movie. And yet, millions of people watching that movie said, I didn't understand that movie. It made no sense to me. It made perfect sense. So, but because they
People are
didn't have
willfully
an
ignorant.
alien standing there, because there wasn't an alien there and a ship in the sky and stuff, they were completely confused. They didn't understand the metaphor of the monolith, the fact that we found another one on the moon, the fact that when sunlight hit it, it turned it on and it sent a signal to Jupiter because they knew we are curious enough to go there. Uh, they missed not, and all the reviews I saw and all the millions of people I read about growing up with that movie, none of them ever said, yeah, it was about aliens and how they had been messing with our DNA and our evolution. And the Star Child at the end was a hybrid, the next step in human evolution because we are warlike and fighting. I mean, they didn't understand that when the bone was thrown up, which was our first weapon, that when it tumbled and then became what everyone thought was a spacecraft, that was an orbiting nuclear bomb. A boat doesn't turn into a spacecraft, it turns into another weapon. And
Hmm.
people didn't get that. Some did, very few. To this day, I keep people telling me all the time they didn't understand it, but yet that message was there that there's something here. It's extremely higher consciousness and it has been messing with us and our DNA and evolution for a very, very long time. A very long time. And this is nothing new, but we sleep through it.
But
Primarily.
so much is based on perception. I've sort of been fascinated lately. You talked about Barbara's, splitting of the two Earths.
Yeah.
I've been reading, a lot of people talk about that some will leave the planet and some will stay. There's always a splitting somehow. And so
Yeah.
you wonder how much is just
Why can't I
interpretation
hear?
of the people
Mhm.
and what the way you hear things in your head. And I I reread Susie Hanson's book. I read Jeff's, and I read Sherry Wild's book, The Forgotten Promise. And she talks about uh, that in on November 3rd, 2009, that they stopped the Earth's time and basically asked everyone to make a choice. What are you going to stay or are you going to go? You know, and they're
It
all
sounds
sort of the same thing, but they're sort of different. And so, one of the reasons I've been reading those is after reading Jeff's book, it sort of triggered me into thinking, people have different time periods when things are happening or supposed to happen. And the aliens saying that it's soon, soon in their terms could be far off of ours. Soon could be the 500 years that Jeff talks about. The soon could be, I remember Yvonne and I joking about why are they having so many old people like us, doing all this? So it must be soon, you know? And so I've been trying to sort of figure out time periods because I know when Susie or Sherry Wild's book talked about the November 2009. That's when I stopped stopped being a workaholic and started thinking about all this stuff, and then joined Cero in either late 2012 or 2013, which is when I ran into Joe. But there are so many synchronicities, and these people, they all have a little different read on it, it seems. My little synchronicity right now is Melissa's got the same picture I have in my bedroom. Uh, it's sort of a compilation without the spots of all the dogs we've had. It's a little bit of each one of them. What is it, Andrew White? I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a wife portrait.
yeah. And Jeff's book triggered me. You know, I'm starting to feel better. You know, I had 4 fractures in my pelvis, and since July, and have ups and downs. Last week was, I was thinking I was doing better, and last week was terrible, but I'm doing better this week. But uh, just after I finished Jeff's book about 3 or 4 weeks ago, um, I was contemplating, you know, how much I guess I will start, you know, redoubling my efforts on working on the stuff that I'm working on. And I just had that thought, and I decided I had to get up and go to the bathroom. My wife and I were watching the news. I paused the TV. We have satellite TV, and it's silent when it pauses. And as I'm going downstairs on my chairlift, all of a sudden in the living room, even the TV's off, and no one had the Alexa on, and I could see the remote control. No one, my wife wasn't within 10 feet of it. All of a sudden, just playing out of the midair in the living room is the 3 of the first 4 lines. You're going to laugh at this, of the Ramones Blitzkrieg Bop. And it's A-O, let's go. And they say it 3 times
Hey,
in the
let's go.
yeah. In fact, there's a commercial that has it for COVID shots, you know, the boosters, that has one of those lines, but not 3. And the actual uh, song has 4. It repeats it 4 times. And as I was walking away, I'm thinking, you know, I've got to start back writing my book, and I've got to start doing this and that, and maybe I, you know, need to get off my butt and start working. And then all of a sudden I hear A-O, let's go. Sort of a, you know, the Ramones, my kids loved them. And so I did. My daughter and wife actually went to CBGB's in New York to see where they first started playing. And so it's sort of a family rock and roll thing, you know. And so
Rock and
I've been
roll is
working
good.
ever since. And on yesterday, uh, the UAP Disclosure Fund had its first um, town hall meeting, and it was about law enforcement. Uh, Dr. Keith Taylor is a friend of mine, um, put together protocols for law enforcement on how to deal with UFO or unknown drone type of things. You know, whenever people get, you know, because they, you know, you can't call the Air Force anymore since 1970. So, you know, people called their police departments. And so they don't know what to do with them because cops only know what protocols they have. And so I'm going to, after the program was really well done, I'm going to put together a presentation and take it to the League of California Cities, where I used to do a lot of volunteer work. And that's all, every city in California is a member except for 2, Costa Mesa and Norco. And so I want the public safety division of the league to, have all the police chiefs at least have access to it. Because if you're the police chief of Stevensville, if you didn't know this stuff, you got in a lot of trouble, because half the town saw it. And same in New Jersey. Think about Los Angeles in 1942 with the Battle of Los Angeles.
Oh, that
Oh,
was a weather
yes.
balloon. Come on.
Exactly. See, for law enforcement, it doesn't matter whether it's a weather balloon. If
They had a
people,
lot to deal with that night, and that's for sure.
someone was killed from the
know.
debris falling, but you don't have to believe to make sure that your law enforcement doesn't, laugh at people, because those people are going to call their city council members, and if enough of them do it, that city council members are going to call the police chief and yell at him because their officers aren't treating things seriously. So,
The average person doesn't know if when they see something, they don't know who MUFON is. They don't know what Arrow is. They just don't know. And so I agree the police should at least know who MUFON or Arrow are so they could refer.
What's Arrow?
The people that you shouldn't send it to because they're going to put it in a PDF and file it. That's what MUFON is for.
On your nutcase.
circular file.
Yeah.
We were talking about being taken and brought to another world and the world splitting and all that. But what if it's really something entirely different altogether? And that is that we collectively as a community, if we're working with the visitors the way I think we are, it's an effort to bring our consciousness up to a point where we are able with our minds to be telepathic because of what's about to happen. And that really is going to happen. And we'll need our telepathy very much for that. And also, when we were kids, we were being taught how to project three-dimensional objects, to be able to conjure things from the mind and bring them into reality without technology, which is highly suggestive that we could create our own reality, our own earth, our own world, and just simply, we don't even move into it, we become it. It's just, it came into my mind while we were talking about this.
Could
I
be.
agree.
So here's my take on all this stuff.
I knew that we did, Jeff.
Yeah, my brain's always going, right? That's the whole thing. And they've told me quite a bit, so I have my own perspectives on these things. So I'm pretty convinced they're from the future. And something is going to happen here that I think is insane, like two timelines converging or something. I don't really, I agree. I don't fully understand it. But if they were from the future, it's the only perspective for me that makes sense about why they're giving different messaging. Because then they're looking at it from a population perspective. And they're saying that person's got that. And what I know they know is that there's motivation that gets created behind a future idea. Right? So this would be something that they would understand that, okay, how about we tell them a meteor's coming. And they're like, oh, okay. And the person freaks out and they get motivated and drummed up, right? And I know that they know that. And so there is an idea in my head that I sometimes think that they're looking at the large scale impact on the population about that message. So they're looking at it like scales up, while all we do is see a book, right? And we internalize that message. But I'm convinced they see it from the population's perspective and then through a timeline. So it's even more complex. They're looking at it through a timeline. Okay, how did that impact them? Okay, what choices did the population make 5 years later?
And I hear that so much, Jeff, that these people are from the future. I hear that. I talk to so many people, and I hear that over and over again, that they were told that the Greys are from the future. That's your future.
Yeah,
it's like a language of potentials, whereas our language is very much of the now and the here. They tend to speak in a way of it could go in 100,000 different ways because we've seen them all. And whether they're from the future or not, it seems like they're in another different timeline from us. And it makes total sense to me.
That's what mine is. They're actually from an
Yeah.
alternate Earth in the future. So it's even much
Yeah.
more bonkers. It's like, wow. But looking at the way they're interacting with humanity now, as Jim's pointing out, with the variety of different types of messages, that's the only thing that makes sense for me, is that they're looking at the impact of those different messages on the
Yeah.
population. And that's why they even favor, they actually have favor, like, you know, certain, I don't mean to favor, but they might provide more evidence, right, in certain contact events than others. And you can see that evidence becomes an impact on the population as far as information goes. So
Yeah, if you're ready to hear what they're saying, it makes more sense than if you're not ready.
yeah. And I think Jacques Vallée, I always come back to the one line that he seemed to just nail on the head. You have to have wisdom, right? He gives a whole example of a security guard who had his memory erased, and it's because the alien said, "You won't speak wisely about this night." So then the alien
makes
blocked
sense.
the memory, but you have to have wisdom, right? So then the aliens are actually controlling the message a little bit, and so I think all that plays a part in this kind of grander
Okay,
population thing.
so wait a minute, Jeff. If you don't remember what happened, never mind.
I have
just-
a question.
I don't remember a lot of things after the fact. You know, I get wiped all the time.
Well, I think there's individual circumstances going on here. That was the only reason I'm pointing that out is an idea that there's maybe a message that's being facilitated through the population on purpose, and that they're kind
I
of
just got an idea.
managing that perspective a little bit. And
I had a comment the other day that was directed at me, is why would aliens need
Oh
to work
gosh.
with humans, to work through humans to teach them wisdom? And my answer to him back
today.
was, I said, who said they were aliens? I never said they were aliens. You did. Because I
Melissa, what were you
don't
about to
I don't
say?
call on that.
Oh, I just have a
Melissa?
question. I'm wondering too if it came to my attention. I've been hearing from different things too, that there may be more than one group. So I'm wondering, is it like
absolutely.
one universal message that we're giving, or are we getting competing messages from different groups?
Good point.
There are different groups, absolutely. Well, at least in my experience, there are, because I don't just see grays on board.
Right.
right, yeah.
Right, and even other species too. I mean, I'm wondering,
Yeah.
because I'm hearing a lot of interactions with grays, but are there other? I don't even know what's out there or what isn't. But like, is it all just one group, or do we have other entities?
Well, you do hear the Confederation often.
No,
And
the Federation.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Galactic
know if
Federation, that's what they call it.
I don't know if they're doing, according to Susie's book, they're kind of all, you know, one thing, even though there's many species.
Well, they're working together.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering if they're all with a unified message, or if we're getting different messages. Are they even agreeing? It just seems like there's different. There's a big there. It seems like a lot of people are talking about humans becoming aware and conscious, and we're finding out more science and all of that, and we're finding more about, you know, the real science, you know, how things could work in a different way, kind of going back to ancient traditions that we cast aside. But
Yeah, we did.
But there's also like a lot of particular. It seems like there's a whole lot of input and not a lot of clarification and
Yeah.
Well, the one thing
Yeah.
I get from them over and over again is that we need to lose our aggression, our anger, and stop killing each other and making war, or we'll never move forward.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
absolute.
talk to us when we're awake about that.
Well, and
Well,
another thing that's
kind of have.
another thing that's interesting is Jacques Vallée pointed out kind of the role of UFO flaps. How, if you notice, like even the drones that just happened not too long ago, everything happens in these spurts.
Yep.
And there is like scientific evidence that you make things evolve. Like the way to make something evolve is to not give it consistent information, but actually give it spurts of information. So something, and then you pull back, and then let that thing digest it, and it could be over years or maybe a generation, and then you do it again, and you keep giving spurts of information, and what you have is a better and greater flow of evolution. And that does seem to be at play here. And so again, if you're looking at a population, it's true, you might actually just get a variety of messaging, but then there is an undoubtedly grander reality that it's an evolution is occurring. So it's true, there might be specific intellectual, logical misinformation, but it can't be denied that an evolution is occurring with that information. So regardless if someone said I channeled the Arcturians and I got Unity is all one, and then someone says I have gray aliens and Unity are all one, we're still learning about a message about Unity is all one. And it's, it's regardless of the intellectual human side to that, there is something, a reality that's happening, an evolution is occurring. And I think that is the part where they maybe are looking at it. I always think of it like they're taking a step up than our logical frame of reference, and they maybe bend or work with our logical frame of reference. So they sometimes looks like there's confusing messages. And
yeah, and we're only in this one lifetime. I mean, evolution spans,
right,
many generations.
And yeah, some people suggest they've been here since longer than these generations, and maybe have been. You're right. Maybe they've been evolving us, right? Yeah.
But our brains, our consciousness is evolving right now as a result of this experience, and it's an accumulation of thousands of lifetimes. But it's like it's coming to a head almost, is how I feel. There's something really different, It's just, they were so busy during the 90s. I mean, it seemed like it was almost every night for a while. I was constantly telling Yvonne about it, and she's constantly having me draw and write everything down about it. And it was crazy how frequent it was. And then it kind of backed off, what you were talking about, Jeff. And then we'd come back a little bit, and then we'd go away a little bit. But recently, it's right back to weekly, sometimes night after night after night, it seems. With small breaks in between, but it's like I'm able to adjust and work with it better than I ever have. Maybe just because I'm older, I've had more experience, but it feels like that. So,
but when you say older, this lifetime, how much can you absorb in one lifetime?
A lot, especially in a life. Living in a body like this, having our consciousness confined to this little container.
But is it though? We're starting to talk and connect with this consciousness. We're becoming more aware as a group.
That's true. As we connect, it connects even more.
That's why we're all here right now. And this is why, so many of us are doing work to expand other people's consciousness about what's happening. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm working every day practically on this channel, and hard work too. And sometimes I wonder, what am I doing? It's like, do I enjoy it? Yes. Yeah. Do I enjoy it? Yes, I do. After I've struggled through something, I feel like something's just pushing me. You got to do this. It's important. Got to get it done. And I get to a point where I'm frustrated and tired, and I just can't want this to be done. And when it is done, there's some sort of reward that's strictly conscious and not anything physical or kudos from people or anything like that. It's reward like, good job, well done. And I feel this release, and I can go back and play with models and things for a few days before it comes into me again and says, okay, we got to do this one now, and it's interesting. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. How about you guys? How about you, Jeff?
It's the gift of it's the gift.
Yeah. But I know Jeff is working.
Oh yeah, up and down spurts. Yeah, and I get driven, and it's the same thing you're talking about. They had like intense activity earlier in the year, and then it died off so much that I was asking, are you gone? Did you leave?
Yeah, I do that too.
But that can go on for a year or two also, because there's been spurts where there was nothing, and then it just starts up again.
Yeah.
Mine's pretty. I think because they know I'm public and all that stuff, and so I just saw them like after not seeing for a couple weeks. She came back and always to kind of give me that impression that I'm still here. And then now that I'm drumming up with a new set of videos I'm thinking about, they're back. Like she's back consistently, and there's communication about what I'm doing and stuff. So yeah, you got it. It's like a drive. It's this. I'm reading Coevolution by Alec Newold right now, and he talks about the exact same thing. You got that drive. You got an energy in you, and you don't even understand it, and you know you have to keep doing this thing. You have to keep pushing, kind of keep getting this information out and putting it into the public. Yeah, it's very interesting.
And there's a lot of us doing it, and not enough. I mean, Whitley's doing his thing, and we're doing our thing, and it's interesting talking to Whitley because I recorded a show with him that will be on Halloween. It's our Halloween show, and yeah. And when he first pops on, I hear him pop on. We're not live yet, and I'm kind of looking at things and stuff like that. And I look up, and there's this strange man sitting there with a mustache like this and this hat, sitting here like this.
You recorded this, right?
I'm
hoping he recorded that
we
part.
had a problem
because
with
I was in the other room.
That sounds iconic. We'd have to all see that. That's so amazing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I could get him to ask him
Especially
to do
Whitley.
it again.
He's kind of a straight character, right? So it's really good.
Yeah, no,
he
really
has a sense of humor.
I believe it. Yeah. Actually, I saw him live, and I saw him perform. He was hilarious. He had us all dropping in laughter. I couldn't believe, because you think his presentations are going to be very straight. He had us all laughing. He is such a funny individual. In these public settings, it's great.
But my point for bringing him up was that, the things we've been talking about, Jeff, and I've been talking about with Susie and everything, I talked to him about that. He says, I'm really not aware of that. I mean, it's not to say he wants to be and he wants to know more about it, but, he didn't know about a lot of those things. And so a lot of us don't all have the same information for whatever reason. We have a basic information, that we've had this experience, that we interact with these creatures with black eyes and all of that, but they're clearly not working with all of us in exactly the same way.
Exactly.
That each person has a certain application. Whitley's was writing the books. His book, Communion, was very important. And it's really interesting to stand back as someone who's been involved in this for a long time and look and see that.
Yeah.
Because it shows that there's an intelligence behind it.
Exactly. I agree with it. The point I always kind of mention is, okay, so we have these researchers, and if you notice, there's a kind of a weird thing that goes on with the researcher community against experiencers. I won't go into that. But then I kind of have compassion for them, because if you notice, experiencers have trouble getting all on the same page. It's exactly what you're saying.
You think?
Yeah, I know. It's because, and then then you take one step back up even further and you realize that's the aliens doing. That's the entities doing. That's right. It's the phenomenon doing that. It's the one, because they chose Whitley. They said, Whitley, you write those books. They said, Susie Hansen, you write that book. They told me, write that book. So it's obvious there's a messaging system, if you want to call it that. And then they're the ones giving out that message. And then I used Whitley Strieber's book, right? I prayed to be abducted. So his book had an infiltration into the society. They used that to help with the messaging, making synchronicities for people like Jim's talking about. So yeah, that's the system I think that they're working on. They're watching invisibly what's happening, right? And they're moving the society along with this information. And and we're all just vessels with specific information to not overwhelm, to not, if they're from the future and Whitley doesn't have a clue about that, it's obvious they just remove this information to make things simple and to make humans digest the grander pieces of information, right? This is how I kind of think of this stuff.
Yeah. This information that they're giving us. I mean, they're taking things too. There's the whole genetic part of it. I mean, there's different components of it too that I can't just put together.
hard.
Jeff, have you seen what was called to me the gallery, where there were all the tanks with the fetuses in it? Did you, in your experience, ever see that?
I saw fetuses in tubes. Yeah, I saw
Or
fetuses
tubes?
in.
It doesn't matter. I've seen
Yeah,
it
I
all
did.
different ways.
Yeah,
I don't think those are hybrids. I just think they're more bodies for them to occupy. That they might be hybrids in some cases. I
That's
don't know,
the
but
baby wall.
by looking at them, they look like baby grays, and
Hmm.
I get the
that's
feeling that
Like
they're
the
growing
ones
their
they have.
bodies.
that's what I had a specific contact event that talked all about this, and they make their bodies in these tubes, and that was not hybrids. They were gray aliens, yeah,
That's
and they were
right.
made very specific purposes. So yeah, they're genetically engineered for specific purposes in their society. Yeah, it's
Whitley
controls.
does know
Yeah.
about that, and
Mhm.
Yes, he does.
and the Reddit document that Bob Salas actually was the first person to bring that to my attention, and reading through that, I read the whole thing before it went into Whitley's book, and he printed it off for me, and I just knew what this guy was writing about, and it was so familiar. I knew that whoever wrote this, if it was fake, knew a hell of a lot about this. He'd have to. There was no guesswork in there at all about the physiology in the bodies, and that particular body that he had was specifically designed as one of the smaller ones for a very specific function, and that was made clear by the description of the anatomy and everything.
Yeah.
So Whitley does know about that. He does know that bodies are grown. He knows about how they shed their waste, and about the we think it's like a jumpsuit, but it's really something that covers over their skin.
Yeah, his last book was super informative.
Yeah, though but a lot of that was that document. He put that document in the book and then commented on. We had a long talk about it because Whitley and I both were brought on to the alien interview. You might remember from the 90s. There's a lot of controversy about it. It's still alive today. And this is where a man in Area 51 who claimed to work there didn't reveal his face. They interviewed him. Bob Kiviat, Rocket Video, did the alien interview, and he snuck VHS tape out on his wrist, took it off the thing, snuck it out, and it showed this gray, and it showed these doctors with him, and it's behind glass, and it's very dark, and there's this weird little green light going up and down, which Whitley and I both recognized for some reason. We were invited down there by Kiviat to see it for the first time. The public hadn't seen it yet, and they filmed us commenting on it. I don't like what they did with the edit, but Whitley and I both agreed that it might be real. And so flash forward to today, it's had a bunch of analysis, and now, because our technology is better, they're saying that it could very much be real. I know that the being looked right to me. It really did. And so
It's funny. I zeroed in
It's
on
the
that
head
too.
wiggle.
Yeah.
You know?
I zeroed in on that too.
Well-
John Stewart did a really good analysis on that video, and he dug all the way to find out that source, and it legitimately comes from the military, and he found a person to vouch for it, and he found the scientist, the wife of the scientist who's in the video, and she
Right.
says yes, he did work there. So there's a whole backstory that's real, and I also zeroed in on that because that alien has down-angled black eyes like my
Right.
elder has. So yeah,
Right.
it's a similar face structure to my elder. Yeah.
it's then there's that doctor. What was that doctor's name? The one that shot the alien because it killed his dog, and he held on. Oh,
Jonathan.
Yeah, Reed, Dr. Reed.
Oh,
Well,
that's right. I agree.
he and
Yeah.
I got in it. He wrote me a scathing email because I was asked to debunk that. I wasn't asked to debunk it. I was sent the pictures of the alien, and I was asked what I thought of it, and his comment that only a real biological eyeball could reflect back light like that when a flash picture was taken of it. And I went, oh, is that so? So I took a acrylic sphere and I sculpted up really quickly an alien eye and put the sphere in it. And I took a picture of it with my flash and got exactly the same thing. And he went out of his mind.
He said only a human could get that.
He said only an animal or something that was biological, that only a real retina could reflect back like that. So right there, that's such a huge hole. Not to
Mhm.
mention that the work done on the alien was very poor. I mean, I do that stuff for a living at that time for movies. I made aliens all the time and stuff, and they looked a lot better than that thing. you know, Not to mention the safety pins that we're seeing and all that other stuff. Uh, but so many people believed that and thought that that was real. I don't know if it's because they want to believe that that was real or because they really felt it was. But when it comes to that Area 51 video, Whitley and I both just kind of looked at each other like, oh my. And we were very unsettled by it and very disturbed because the gray was in distress. And that really freaked us out because I feel connected to them and I
Yeah,
feel
me
like it's
too.
one of my own.
I
And they've
know.
got hold of these apes, have hold of this poor being,
Dude,
and it was awful.
John Stewart has a backstory, and apparently that gray alien, that alien, the tall alien, was working with a human at the site. They're working together, and the guy's a telepath. And then it starts struggling in our environment. So it's oxygen, or it's not able to handle the biology or the atmosphere. And so it starts struggling and coughing and choking. And then they bring it into this other space where they can film it and the doctors get involved. So apparently it
saw
was
that.
kind and it wasn't harsh. And then the thing was struggling and I don't know what else happened there, but there was a backstory that appears to not be negative.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Here's another backstory. I can say that at that time, I knew everybody who could do the work I could do.
Right.
Could work with foam rubber and fiberglass and servos and radio control units and levers and all the stuff that we did to make creatures for film, and very expensive too. I mean, I got paid, like $30,000 to $60,000 for one alien head that could make all those kinds of expressions and do those things. And generally, what would happen, as what happened with the alien autopsy, is that someone came forward, not publicly, but to me, and said, "You never heard this from me, but I know the guy that did that, and I saw it in his shop, and I won't say any names now, but I guess it came out so the alien autopsy was definitely faked. There are people who are saying that we're lying, but I was connected with that community, and no one said a thing about the alien. No one, the alien interview, nobody to this date I know of has come forward and said, "Steve, I know the people that did it, or I did it myself, or anything like that." And that's a red flag for me. Maybe the government could have hired somebody to make something like that and told them we'll kill you and your family and your dog and your lizard and everything else if you ever say anything about it. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I think it's unlikely. And I don't even know if they'd be able to hire someone. They'd have to be pretty desperate for money to do something like that. Just throwing it out.
I reached out to John Stewart and asked if there's an analog copy, because when they digitized it, they flattened it. So you can't do much analysis. But if it was analog, I could do a lot of tricks. And I recall doing some tricks back in the day when it came out. And so I'm hoping to hear back.
Yeah. Well, for now, it's still, a big question mark. But I know a lot of us had a very bad reaction to that video for the reasons I stated. You feel connected. You feel like they're family. You feel like there's something that's trying to help you, not hurt you. And here are these apes, these hairy things, or got their grubby hands on it. It just made my flesh crawl.
You get that feeling of stop poking him. Stop poking him.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if it was faked, the reaction that we all got from it was so deep, it tells us something about how we feel about our interactions with these beings.
Yeah.
Because it was unsettling. So, wow, every one of these talks we have, they're wonderful, and I really appreciate you all coming in here to do this.
Yeah.
They're all.
I did want to ask Caroline, because she's had some experiences also that she's shared in Zoom, and I was wondering if you could share some of the things you've been seeing lately.
Oh, well, I'm hoping maybe to see some tonight. But I had a dry spell of not seeing anything for a few months, talking about seeing things in spurts. Last fall was very active. For the orbs that I see. And they're always in the same part of the sky. Not always, but usually same time at night. And I see them when I'm driving home from work with um, you know, I don't have like a tripod or anything. I need to get these things. I have plans of being able to chase them down, but I'm never able to. But I've been able to get us some video. But um yeah, tonight I'm going down that way to pick up my oldest, so I'm excited. Maybe we'll see some orbs tonight. Been having a lot of
Cool.
synchronicities this week.
Yeah, I love the
Um,
videos you send.
thanks. Yeah, I get really excited when we get a new sighting. The the craziest thing is I've been getting these I and for living I live in central Pennsylvania, and it comes in clutch, but when I'm driving, I know when there's a buggy up ahead, and I'm able to slow down, just like little premonitions, and that's happened like twice this week. And it just somebody told me, just gave me a flash of knowing. I just every time that happens, it's just so cool. My mom was just telling me that she was having um similar just knowings, and it seems to be more so than I remember her telling me about. So I can definitely relate to the ramping up part. To what, I don't know, but trying to mind my P's and Q's and be the best person that I can.
Caroline, you said they show up in the similar part of the sky. What do you mean by that?
Well, from my vantage point, the route that I take, I literally stop on the same road, and just if I'm there right at 10 o'clock, I usually get a show. Um, they seem to be kind of floating over the river a little bit, near a certain mountain ridge that we have. But those ones are primarily like a reddish orange, but then they cycle through different colors, pretty much every single color. I haven't seen purple, but then there are also like little wispy white ones that I've seen elsewhere. Then they seem to kind of be a different thing. Those are more, there's no regularity to the little white ones, but the orange, I wonder if they are parts, because of the regularity, if they are part of a sphere network like Patrick Jackson talks about. But the thing that, you know, gives me pause with that is that I feel a conscious connection to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of ineffable. I could try, but you folks know.
Do you get
Um,
that feeling of like, oh, I look up and there it is?
I know when there are going to be orbs. Like, I'm just excited. I'm just excited to drive for no reason. Like, I just kind of get that, and frankly, I kind of feel that way. And hopefully, I'm not jinxing myself now, but
No, you'd be fine.
um, yeah, like I just it's almost like just like an electricity, for lack of a better word. I'm just excited, and you just know there's going to be orbs out there. I don't know.
And I've seen the videos, and they're not planes, and they are moving, and definitely moving, and they're not refracting stars, which a
Yeah.
lot of people say. But for refracting stars don't move, only
No.
with the rotation of the Earth, and that's very persistent and constant in direction. These are changing position, and
Yep.
um, yeah, and they do change color, and they don't have nav lights on them, and they don't have landing lights or strobe lights, anti-collision lights, or any of those things. So that rules out aircraft of ours. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really,
and I
I
always
really
check.
appreciate it when you send them the
Oh, well, thanks.
videos.
Well,
Thank you.
hopefully I can send some more. Yeah, I always check the radar, and I have, a star map. So like before I get really excited about something, I always check. that recently, and I forgot about this the last time we were on Zoom, but I saw one that seemed to, it wasn't on the radar, and it was in the regular place at the regular time, but it started to move towards me, and I was really excited because it doesn't always move towards me, and I can't really can't get closer to it through the field, so I was excited. And as I'm watching it, it starts to turn into a plane. And I understand how planes have, a light on the front of it, and I understand how that works. And the plane turns and it looks, but it just started blinking, and like it wasn't the same thing that I was watching. It was, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it was really weird.
It's
And
like the hologram broke down.
well, listen, and it was so weird because I had just been talking with somebody online who also sees them. I think he's in Maryland, and he was starting to see morphing orbs. And I hadn't thought about that for a while, and then I see one. So you gotta love those little synchronicities. I
I've
think you
had
were talking
one
about
for
them recently too, Jeff.
Yeah, shape shifting. Yeah, I've seen them shapeshift. I've seen them 100% shapeshift. Yeah, I had a red orb coming to my apartment. I'm trying to prove it to my wife, and I'm like, and this red orb is coming. I'm like, see, look at that, look at that. It's a red orb, and it's just floating. And as it gets closer and closer, all of a sudden, yeah, it breaks apart, and it's red and green lights now moving. But there was no other object. It was like a floating wings is what it was. And she was
Wow.
so baffled. She was like, what is, that's got to be a plane, right? And I was like pulling up the apps, and there's no plane. And it got really close to show us. Yeah. And I've seen it more than once, shapeshift. Yeah. It is fun.
It's a
There's
real
another
mind blower the first time.
Yeah, it
there,
is.
there's another element to this too that everyone has to think about, and I do, is that when this rather obvious saucer-shaped glowing disc was coming over the backyard of our house in Northridge, going from the southeast to the east. I was looking at it, and I had binoculars too. And my late wife came out, and she said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "That right there." And she says, "Oh, that's just an airplane." And I'm like, "No, that's not an airplane." And I'm looking at the binoculars, and I give her the binoculars to look at it, and she sees an airplane. She did not see a disc, and got mad at me and went off into the house. So she was not seeing what I was seeing. And you hear this all the time. There are people who will say, "I don't see what you're seeing." They don't see it at all.
Yeah.
And maybe there's two other people with you and they do.
Yeah.
So there's some selectiveness going on here. Or maybe a person is so in denial that they literally unsee it.
Yeah, I've been that person in denial. With Dennis seeing
Well, you
not.
can go. Let's go back to Christopher Columbus and the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and the Indians not seeing those ships that are out off the shore because there's no such thing as ships off the shore.
I had a whole thing going on with my wife where she refused to see it, and though she had anomalous experiences herself, she always interpreted it as spiritual. So she didn't want to call it aliens. And then only recently, a bunch of friends, okay, so Jeff sees this stuff. Why aren't you seeing it? And I'm like, well, she has a couple times, but hasn't figured it out. So I'm pushing her, and one night we're up on the roof, and and it comes and it flies over. I'm like, okay, that's it. And let's be happy and figure out how to have a good vibe. And it shows itself. And finally she says, okay, you know what? I can't call that aliens. It was basically the orbs is what it was. So she just had a whole conceptual thing going on. She's like, okay, it's not aliens for me. How about we call it something else? It's like, okay, fine. What do you want to call it? So now she calls it when the stars come to life. And so that's it. Okay, fine.
That's
Sure,
pretty.
the
That's
stars come to
poetic.
life.
We can see
That's
what
it.
we
I
can
like that.
see. Our perception affects how we interact with the phenomenon.
Yeah, it's exactly. And when you want to call it aliens, it'll be something else. It might be angels, right? It might transform itself. And
Oh,
I
I've
agree
heard
with that too. Yeah.
I had one about 6 months ago. Whenever it kept, I won't go through all the shifts that happened, but by the time it got real close, I called my wife out to look, and I turned to look at her, then turned back to it, and it changed. I saw the change, and then it changed into a plane.
It's
The
exact
second
same
time
story.
I called her out, but it changed every time I looked away from it and looked back. I mean, we're talking about this kind of timing, you know.
Did it make
Do you
a
think it's
sound?
a test?
Whenever it was right over my house, it sounded like a jet when it looked like a jet. But before that, it didn't sound like anything. In fact,
Yeah,
when it started out, it looked like a blue cross in the area. Not a Christian cross, but it looked like a blue cross. And the length of it was, like this wide and probably 100 feet tall. And then it would look like it was, first it was like this, then it was like this. And it was sort of like a blue streak.
Cool.
And then it ended up being a plane. And then when I looked at the path it was on, it was going towards an airport that doesn't accept jets, that's closed for the night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sometimes when
And then
I see things, it seems like almost an optical effect, just like Jim was saying, like that big vertical stripe, like a lens flare, and then the other way, and then boop, it's either
Oh,
gone or it changes into something that's benign that we all know.
I saw one of those. Gosh, I don't know, 5 months ago. It just looked like a big beam, a vertical beam in
Yep.
the air that I'd never seen before. And
Like a
then
lens flare.
I drove that way. I was running errands and I saw an orb out there, a wispy white one.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't know if it
That's
was
interesting.
connected, but cool. Yeah,
5 months
forgot
ago, I
about
had
that.
something similar
Same
too. 5 months
time.
ago, around that
Yeah.
time or something. I mean, by around June, I had a floating sideways vertical, but mine was black, but it had red orbs
Wow.
on it, like going up and down, and it was like this floating sideways.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's exotic.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just wacky. It's always like always something different and weird and wacky.
Okay, guys. This was fun.
Bill,
It's,
you want to say anything before we close? You've been quiet. You usually are.
No, I have nothing even close to what you've all been discussing.
yeah, but it was yours.
was
That's
Well, you
important.
need to come spend some time with us. Maybe we should all get together someplace and you can have see some strange things to talk about. I don't know.
we could do that.
Mary and I see plenty from our backyard, and not always. And it was really interesting the other night. I saw two jets. I know my aircraft very well, being a pilot and a builder of airplanes, models, and everything else. Been around all my life, and I occasionally will see jets that look like airliners at high altitude, but they always make sound. And I've seen them at mid altitude, and there's no sound. They look like planes, the lights and everything, but they don't make any sound. And I have very good hearing. Mary will attest to that. And that's just odd.
I've seen planes that shouldn't be flying anymore. I'm like, I know that airplane, there's only two that exist, and they're both in museums. What's that flying over?
Like the Hinkle 111.
Well, it might be a different time also.
The Valkyrie aircraft.
Oh, the
I'm
Valkyrie,
like,
yeah.
There's
Or the-
none that can fly.
No, they're not. The last time they did fly, things went rather wrong with that F-104 Starfighter, didn't they?
Bam.
The
Oh,
chase plane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, as my friend Gary Hughes always says to me, watch the skies.
Yes.
We will
Watch
be.
the skies.
Yes.
And that goes for all of you watching the show too. Keep your eye on
and
things.
do-
You say you've never seen anything, keep looking. You will.
Yeah. And do look up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what watching the skies is. In fact, I have my friend Gary Hughes right here. Here he is. They actually made a model of him, and this is our friend Gary, and he made the Rocket Man suit from the old cereal, and they actually made a toy of him.
Nice.
So he's always watching me too.
Okay. Well, you guys have a great night, and we'll see you. We'll see you here soon.
Yep.
Thanks so much
Yeah.
for organizing this. This was fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed, Mary.
Yeah.
Always.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you.
always.
Thanks for having
Take
us.
care.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye
See
bye,
ya.
you guys. Bye bye.